Right. Good afternoon. Please don't be alarmed, by the way. I know I've got a presentation, but this isn't going to be death by PowerPoint by any means. I'm going to keep my bit to 5 minutes. Really, the idea is just to set the scene. So who we are really as a Sage business partner, what gives us the right to present Sage Intacct to you today. A bit of an overview of what Sage Intacct is, because this could be the first time that you're hearing about it. Then what I want to do is get you across to my colleague Emma as soon as I can. I guess very quickly with introductions, my name's Rory. I'm a sales consultant at Vision33. I work with new clients, understanding their challenges and requirements for a new finance system and ensuring that Intacct is going to be a good fit for them. And I work very closely with my colleagues in the delivery team, which Emma is a part of. Emma comes from an accounting background as well and SEMA qualified, and has also done a number of Intacct implementations and worked for the likes of PwC and other Intacct partners before. So you guys are in really good hands today with Emma when we get into the software. In terms of who we are, I always like to say, it's important to get the right finance system in. It's also crucially important to get the right partner in, because it is a partnership at the end of the day. And really, we're all about that finance transformation. We're much more than just implementing and supporting you. For us, it's the long term and the strategy behind it. And we will work closely to ensure that Intacct continues to be a best fit. From our point of view, Intacct should be the last finance system you guys ever need to implement into your business. It doesn't matter what your growth aspirations are. We're a global organization. We've worked with Sage for 30 plus years, and we are the largest Intacct global partner that there is. So we've done a lot of Intacct implementations. And because of that, we've worked with a multitude of different types of organizations. It doesn't matter where you're coming from today, whether you're a not-for-profit, a recruitment company, a software business, really doesn't matter. We've got huge amounts of experience and also cross-experience working across different types of organizations, all of that feeding into that central delivery team. So huge amounts of knowledge there. And of course, we do have a lot of happy people. I had to throw this slide up, but the key thing to take away from here is that we've got experience again in like recruitment, not-for-profit software companies, but everybody has come from a different system. It doesn't matter whether you're using Sage 50, 200, QuickBooks Zero. Maybe you are using something that's already been market like NetSuite or Dynamics. We will work with you to ensure that your transition into Intacct is done seamlessly and smoothly as well. Now, in terms of what Sage Intacct is, I just want to make a very clear distinction here. Sage Intacct is a best-of-breed finance solution. It's not an ERP. Big difference here is that ERPs implementation times tend to take a lot longer, because you really have to put a lot of work into customizing them, and you tend to get a finance module. You might get something like inventory, HR. Basically, you end up paying a lot of money when really all you need at the end of the day is finance, right? So Sage Intacct is just a finance solution. It's a modular-based system, and what I mean by that is we ensure in the sales process that you guys have exactly what you need day one. And then, of course, as part of your account management, any other modules that do become necessary, you can add those onto Intacct. So you know exactly what you're paying for, basically. You're not paying for something that you're not using. Intacct is a best-of-breed finance solution. It's cloud-based. It was born and built in the cloud. Why that's important? It's not one of these systems that has recently made the jump, where you still have to access it through Citrix or remote desktop, or you have sort of two different sort of accesses, one on desktop, one sort of in the cloud. It is just all in the cloud. So providing that you have an internet-enabled device and you have a web browser that's up to date, you can access Sage Intacct. It's been built by finance professionals for finance professionals, and the idea is that it's a very modern and easy to use solution, and I'm sure that's going to come across in the demo for you later. The other key thing here about Intacct is that it's what we call micro vertical focus, and it doesn't matter what type of organization that you are. Intacct will have a set of reports or modules that are set specifically for your type of organization. And what that means is time to value for you guys is a lot faster. We can implement it in, say, typically 3 months, but it also means your return on investment's a lot faster as well. So essentially, when we go to spin up your environment, we spin it up according to the type of business that you are. But again, we will work with you in the sales process to make sure that you are getting everything that you need. And Intacct is not just a system that was built for the UK. If you are a organization that has multi-entities within the UK, no problem. If you're an organization that has multi-entity internationally, again, not a problem. Intacct is a fully multi-company and multi-currency system with the likes of advanced global consolidation, so you can have local base currencies and a overall reporting group currency. But again, You might be starting off as just, a single entity in the UK, but you do have aspirations to grow your organization in the coming years. Intacct will be with you every step of the way. Now, anything that Intacct cannot do as part of those core modules that I mentioned a little earlier, and there's a lot of them, there is what we call the marketplace. And I always sort of say the marketplace is like the app store for your iPhone, for example. There is a number of niche bits of functionality add-ons that other partners have created just to further enhance the ecosystem and sort of usability of Intacct. The benefit here is if you do go through a marketplace partner, it has been the integration has been tried and vetted by Sage directly, and it should be as simple as just plug in and play. Now, we sit on the marketplace partner with our Saltbox platform. And what that is it's our own integration platform. So you might have other systems internally that you want to integrate with. You're more than welcome to go and look at the marketplace to see if there is a partner who's created an integration for you with the system you use. If there is, great, go and use that. However, if not, as I say, we've got an integration platform called Saltbox, and what we can do is have Saltbox sit in between Sage Intacct and any of the other systems that you're using. I'm just going to use an example, but for recruitment companies, let's say that could be, time and billing system, your CRM system, for example. With our Saltbox, we can set up, workflows to ensure that data is moved between those systems seamlessly. And we've actually got a number of standard connectors in place anyway, because we've done it with a number of organizations. So there's a good chance that we've actually seen a similar integration. It's our own software. We've got our own developers on it. We support it. And the key thing here is that we are the strategic integration partner for Sage Intacct directly as well. So we have our own channel. So they come to us for any complex integration requirements. So really wanted to keep that short and sweet. I'm going to hand over to my colleague, Emma. So enough from me. Emma, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and hand it over to you.
Thanks, Rory. That was great. So hi, everybody. Thanks for joining today. So as Rory mentioned, I'm going to be taking you through a little bit of a Sage Intacct demo this afternoon. I'm going to cover a handful of bits and bobs today, mainly the core financials and reporting, and I'm also going to introduce you to the concept of dimensions. So as you'll be aware, Sage Intacct is widely recognised for its powerful reporting capabilities, and it's also known for its dimensional capabilities, so we'll come on to that. So this is the home page, and I'm just going to go through a little bit of sort of basic sort of navigation through the system to start us off. Then I'll take us into the dashboards, and then we'll move on from there. So just a quick little bit here. So from within Sage Intacct, in the top right hand, we've got this help and support button here. If you click on that, you can go to help on this page or the help center. Now, I've worked with a lot of finance systems in the past, and I have to say the Sage Intacct help is exceptional. So if I just type in, for example, invoice on here, it will bring through all your different sort of options in terms of what you might be trying to do within the system. And then you can go through and say, actually, I want to edit an invoice, and it will bring you through and show you exactly how to do that. That's that. We've also got something called Copilot, which has recently been released. It's called Search Help just here. So in the top right again, we search help, and it goes over the Sage Help Center and brings through what it thinks you're asking for. So again, if I say edit an invoice and click send, there we go. It's just having a look at all the different articles within the Help Center at the moment, and it will bring through some really useful information. So say to edit an existing invoice, you can follow these steps. Really nice to have that within the system without you having to go and log into another website or URL and then carry on working. Okay. One other bit that I want to show you before we go on to there is the search function. So just in the top right again, everything that you need to do to sort of support yourself when you're getting to grips with Intacct is in the top right. So if I click, I know I've got a supplier that's got Singleton in the name. So this is one I've prepared earlier. If I click on go, this is going to bring me all the transactions that are related to this particular supplier. So you can see here we've got our AP purchase invoices with my Singleton Brothers supplier. We've got the payments that we've made, and we've got some GL entries. So I can just go from here and say, actually, I just wanted to look at the supplier. If I hit view, it's going to take me into that part of the system. Here we go. And I can see my supplier and I can check whether, I don't know, I needed their VAT number for some purpose that somebody's asked me for. Okay, and if I hit home, that's going to take me back to that original screen, which is your general sort of launch page when you come into Intacct. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to move into my dashboards. So I've got lots of dashboards set up here. First one I'm going to show you is this role-based CFO in the global view. Okay, so I'm just going to view my components. So you see there's lots of different components making up this dashboard. We've got a chart at the top. We've got what we call performance cards here, which I really enjoy as a visual. So it gives you that instant impact. Okay, I know total revenue is down $9,400 this month compared to the prior month. And I've also got a percentage comparator there that tells me what the difference is on the prior month. I've got other charts, which again, nice and visual, and then various other sort of KPIs that I'm interested in. So I could actually set this to be my landing page when I come into Intacct rather than the home page. So I'm immediately got that overview of what's happening in my company, and I know what I want to focus on for the day. So this is my demo environment. It's got lots of entities across lots of different companies. If I just show you here, we've got the US, Canada, Australia, the UK, and South Africa. So at the moment, this is running on my consolidated book, and I've set this consolidation to be in US dollars. You can, with your consolidations, choose to consolidate into GBP, into basically whichever currency that you want to report your sort of overall company information in. And you can also set it to do consolidations in different currencies as well. So if you wanted to see it in US dollars and in GBP, you can set two different consolidation books that would run separately and sort of convert it into that currency for you. So this is just an example dashboard that I've set up, which is kind of what I was thinking of as what a CFO might like to see. You know, this is based probably more on a sort of general business or SaaS, but obviously we do work with not-for-profits as well. And I know there's some not-for-profit companies on the webinar today. So please excuse me if I talk more in the generic sort of business way. We are set up to run SOFAs, SORPs, and we've done a lot of work with not-for-profits. It's not specific for general companies at all. Okay, so everything on this dashboard is drillable. So if I want to hover over here, you can see the 9400 has gone green. Just going to click on here, and it's going to take me in to what's built up this number here. Okay, so we can see the 9400. I can drill through again, and I can see exactly which transaction it was. So this is my consolidation with my 9400. So once again, very similar to the searches I did or the help pages, everything is within Sage Intacct. You don't need to keep flicking between screens. Okay, so I'll just close this one down, and I'll close this one down as well. And I'm back into my dashboard. So that really applies to anything that you can see on the dashboard. Now this is quite high level because I've gone sort of thinking about an overall view for a CFO. I'm just going to take you in now to another dashboard that I've created. So if we go back on our application picker into dashboards, you can see I've been busy and I've set up quite a few different ones, but I've set up some sort of really nice role-based AP manager type ones, which will give you an idea again of the sort of role-based information that you can put onto your dashboards. I'm just going to change from being in top level to work in the United Kingdom because I know we're all UK based here. So we'll switch that, then we won't be looking at dollars anymore. And I'm going to go into this one here. So my AP manager and view components again. Okay, so you can see this is AP based. We've got our accounts payable, we've got our intercompany, and we can also see our cash at hand right at a first glimpse. I've also set up some records. Oh, excuse me. There we go. Some records here. And then I've got my custom navigation. So obviously working in AP, I'm probably going to be creating bills, invoices, doing some approvals and so on. And these URLs will take me straight to the page that I want to use. Okay. We can add, like I said, comparators to these performance cards, and you can also sort of add the arrows, and you can choose whether it's green or red, depending on obviously whether it's good news or slightly less good news. So a couple of examples, it gives you a really quick way of having everything on the same page. And like I said, you can start on this page every time you log into Intacct. So if you are a subject matter expert, you only want to know about AP, for example, you can start from here. Straight away, you can create an invoice, you can approve an invoice, pay an invoice, and so on. So these dashboards are all bespoke, and we would build these out based on your requirements. And that's all part of the implementation process, which I'm sure you can discuss with Rory or Linda later as you go through the sales process. So essentially what I'm trying to say is we build Intacct to suit your company's exact needs. So roles, workflows, reporting, structure, and so on. It's definitely not one size fits all. So now I'm going to move on to dimensions. So Intacct is what we call a dimensional system. And so instead of using sort of endless GL codes, Intacct uses dimensions like department, project, location, employee, and that allows you to have a much more concise chart of accounts. So if I take you into my chart of accounts here, you can see it's not the sort of mammoth chart of accounts you might be used to, where you've got revenue from X, revenue from Y, revenue from Z. What we can do is use the dimensions to categorize our transactions into sort of different buckets within the system, and you'll be able to report on those later. So rather than just talking about it sort of hypothetically, let's translate that into an actual transaction, and let's raise an AR sales invoice. So I'm going to go back into the United Kingdom, and on applications, I'm going to go into AR. Okay, accounts receivable, and I'm going to go into AR sales invoices here and click on add. So what you're looking at here is a very typical transaction entry screen. It shouldn't be anything particularly different to what you've used or seen before. So I'm going to talk you through the fields as I create an invoice. First of all, I'll show you kind of what you'd, I suppose, call the old way, which is using non-dimensional and picking a general ledger code that will have been built to reference all those different parts of your invoice. And then I'll show you how we do this in Intacct using the dimensions. So I'm going to pick my customer. Now I've set my own customer up, and it's called Emma's Flowers. If I wasn't in Sage Intacct, I'd definitely be running a flower shop. So there we go, my flowers. So you can add messages, you can put in reference numbers, descriptions, and so on. These bits, when they've got a red asterisk, that's a mandatory field. And then the other ones without the red asterisks, that's up to you guys whether you want to include that information or not. Okay, so I'm going to give myself a due date of maybe the 30th of June. I could add an attachment. So if I've had, maybe if I'm raising a general ledger journal rather than an AR sales invoice, and I've got some supporting data in terms of my calculations, I could add that here, and that would be tagged onto that particular transaction. So if somebody else came in to have a look, they would be able to see that without kind of having to come back to you. Okay, I'm going to stay in GBP. That's much more comfortable for me. And so the exchange rate date and the exchange rate is just going to be 1 for 1. Okay, so down to the entries table. In my accounts, I've got my balance sheet accounts up at the top. And then lower down here, I'm going to go into my sort of revenue and P&L. Okay, so I'm going to say, oops, I just missed that there. I did see revenue other. And I scroll past it. Here we go. Here's my revenue other. Okay, I'm going to put in my transaction amounts. And then my location has defaulted to the United Kingdom because that's the entity I'm in. I can choose my department. Now, this is the bit that you wouldn't do ordinarily in your current systems. This is where the dimensions for Intacct come in. So this is a sale. So I'm going to use my sales department. For my class, I'm going to say we've provided service level 2. I can tag an employee as well if I need that information. So if a particular employee has done a sale or generated some income, and it maybe reflects in their bonus scheme, and I want to keep track of that, I could use that here. Or if it's related to a particular project. So also I can tag project in here as well. So maybe it was an MRP implementation that we're invoicing our client out for. Okay. So with some of these, or in fact with all of them except for location, we can rename these. So probably class, you might want to rename potentially as funds if you're working for a not-for-profit. So you can tag unrestricted or restricted funds. With projects, it could be programs. It's really, really bespoke to you and fits what your business needs to measure and wants to report on. We go. So yeah, there's loads of potential uses for the dimensional tagging, and you can use these dimensions to basically tag the invoice into a very specific bucket, if you like, in the system. And what that translates to is that you can run reports now and slice and dice the data using these dimensions or the tags. So if I click on post a new, hopefully I've done everything I should. I've got a feeling I've missed doing tax. Yeah, there we go. Let's go back, because I'm working on a little screen. If we scroll to the right, I need to choose my tax detail. There we go. I'm going to say no tax. So you can see there, it knows the rate is 0 and my transaction tax is 0 as well. So let's post that one now. Oh, I'm doing silly things today, but you get the idea in terms of tagging here. Okay. I do have one I prepared earlier. Let's just have a look at this one. So you can see here, I've got my location, I've got my department, my class. I've even gone as far as tagging my employee, my project. I've put in a memo, so I've put in some additional information about what this invoice was for. And once again, I've put no VAT output, but you could put obviously your 20%, your reduced rate, whatever is applicable to that particular invoice there. Okay, so I'm going to move into reporting now, which obviously is one of Intacct's key strengths. Okay, so we've got in reports, we've got the report center. There you go. So you get absolutely loads of what we call out of the box reports with Intacct. And you can see if I scroll down, you can fill your boots essentially with these reports here. Okay, absolutely heaps. What you also get is a custom report writer, and that allows you to create reports with any financial and non-financial information that you have in the system. So the financial reports is more for things like your P&L, your balance sheet, SOFR, SORP, etc. The custom report writer is more detailed and getting down into sort of the transactional level information. Okay, I'm going to go back into my entity again and run my reports. There we go. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to run my P&L detail here. So I'm just going to click on this. Now this is likely to be quite small amount of information because it's only going to show the transactions that I've put in the system over the last few days. So I don't know why I'm in 2019. That's quite a while ago. So let's go for, I'll run it for the 30th of this month. And click on OK. Here we go. So you can see I've got my P&L here with all the data that I've been putting. So this will be my Emma's Flowers revenue, my accounts receivable invoices that I've put in. I've also obviously incurred some expenses while I've been doing my flower shows. You can filter these reports. So if I click on filters, I could run it just to look at a specific department and also for specific locations here. Okay, the other thing you can do from within the reports is you can click through them and look at the transactions behind. So if I go into this one, you can see now I've got a credit here of 85k. I think we're back in 2019 now, but here we go. And you can see the literal journal entry that generated that number here. Okay, and you can also see the dimensions that have been tagged. Okay, once you've done that and you've sort of understood the numbers behind what's in your balance sheet, you can just close that and come back into that report. So I'm now going to run the P&L by department to show you in a bit more detail how the dimensions work. So I'm going to click into the P&L by department. I'll leave it running at 2019 because it seems to be really happy back in, in that time period. And you can see here, we've still got the profit and loss, we've still got our revenue, cost of revenue, OPEX, other income, etc. But across the top now, we've got it split out by department. So I've got my admin, IT, marketing, and so on. And then we've got our all departments, so the sum of everything that we've tagged and split out here. Okay, so you can actually split out the profit and loss or any of the reports by any of the dimensions that you've got set up in Intacct. So let's have a run of that and I'll show you how we can go about doing that. Okay, so I'm going to go into, once again, my P&L by department here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to edit it and I'm going to duplicate it and I'm going to call it P&L by class and click on OK. Okay, so now if I scroll down, I can see P&L by class. I'm going to go in and edit. I'm going to go into my columns. And where we've got in this particular column here, expand by departments, I'm going to change this and say expand by class and set. I'll do it on here as well because I think we've got all of them expanding by departments as it stands. So I'm going to change this one to expand by class as well. And then what you can do when you're building your reports is you can preview. I'm going to preview my live report. And you'll see we've now got our classes along the top. So my service line 1, my small businesses and so on. We've still got the chart of accounts here with our different types of revenue, but now we can see the split by class. And it really, really is that easy to do your dimensional reporting. So I could go in here again and change it and say, actually, I want to see it by, should we say, by project. Set, preview, live report. I think I've given it a big job to do because I've got quite a few projects up and running. But now you can see again, we've got our ERP implementation, our security, and so on. So it really is very good to do that. With a couple of clicks, I've basically changed the entire P&L there. Okay. There we go. So we do have a consolidated P&L. I go back into reports and the report center. Go and somewhere down here, here we go, our consolidated profit and loss by location. So I'm going to run this. And you can see I've got my different countries, my different entities across the world on one P&L as well. So we've got Australia, Canada, our holding company, all the way down here. So this report is currently in US dollars, but you can choose, like I said earlier, your consolidation currency. This functionality is also available for domestic consolidations, so all in GBP, and Intacct would eliminate your intercompany postings. Okay, so here on this report, like I said, you can see all your entities together. It's drillable as well. And what's even better is that you can schedule this report, or in fact, any of the reports, to automatically run each month by setting up a schedule. So let me show you how we can go about doing that. Okay. So I'm back with my consolidated profit and loss by location, and then I'm going to edit my schedule here. I could filter it to run by a particular department group, location group, and so on. But what I actually want to do, I'm really happy with my report. I want it to schedule to run every month, so I don't really need to remember. I've got a lot going on. So let's say the 30th of June, we can say after a number of occurrences, or we can give it an end date. I'm going to say after a number of occurrences, I'm going to get this to run once a month for 12 months. Obviously, you can set reports to run daily, weekly, monthly, and so on, or following your general ledger close, which is probably really good for some of your sort of management accounts and that side of things. I'm going to choose month, and I'm going to say run every 1 month. And actually, because I've chosen months, I could set it to run at the end of the month here by just clicking on that checkbox. Okay, we've got different delivery options for our reports. We can set it to email. If I check that box, I can give a sort of a distribution list, and you can add multiple emails to that using commas or semicolons to separate that out. And of course, you can be copied into it. need to give it a subject, and then you can choose how it is distributed via email. So whether you want a printable version, Excel, HTML, or CSV. Okay, you could also set it to store in Intacct. So if we choose that instead, you give it a description, and once again, you would choose the report type. So you've got the same options here as when you would send it out by email. And the last option is to store it in the cloud. So essentially, if you've got, say, Google Drive or SharePoint, something like that, and you want Intacct to basically put it into a folder for you to then come and get it and use it, distribute it, you can give it a path. So you can say, I want to send it to, give it a path, and then again, choose the type of report that you want it to be. Okay. So that's a little bit of a crash course on dimensions and how they give you powerful, sort of flexible ways to slice and dice your data. And that's whether it's for reporting or your day-to-day transactions. It can be a relatively new concept. It certainly was to me after years of using other systems. So you can Google it, you can speak to Rory or Linda, and they can put you in touch with me, and I can always discuss that with you in a little more depth, because it is difficult on a webinar. So now I'm going to pivot a little bit, and I'm going to go back to data entry, and I'm going to show you how Intacct handles revenue recognition. I'm going to head back into my UK entity and into accounts receivable, sales invoices. So out of reports, into AR, and into my sales invoices. Okay, so something that's really important to a lot of our clients is being able to manage how revenue actually hits their ledger and when. And that's where we can start to think about things like revenue recognition or revenue management. So typically, if you wanted to do revenue management in some systems, you'd have to post the invoice and then manually defer it to a deferred revenue account. And then every single month, you'd have to remember to move that proportion from deferred revenue into revenue. With Sage Intacct, you can actually set up schedules to do that for you. Once again, here's an invoice that I posted earlier. So let me just do a little search for it. 0488. There we go. So if we go into this invoice, you can see in my posting details, we've got it going to deferred revenue here. And then if we go into the transaction in here, you can see we've got revenue recognition. I've selected a template, so I've said that I want this particular transaction to be recognised in a straight line basis over 12 months. I've said which of the deferred revenue accounts I want to use, and I've also given it a start date. Okay, so if I then go and view my schedule, and I open this up, you can see that Intacct has split it out over those 12 periods for me. Comes nicely to the 1000. And we've got the different dates. So this looks slightly US, but 31st of May, 30th of June, and so on, right through to the 30th of April. Okay, you can, if you need to, you can put your revenue recognition on hold, you can terminate it, or you could edit it as well. So once it's up and running, it would run automatically, but you can make those changes if required. We also support prepaid expenses, and it works in the same way, obviously just the other side of the coin. Okay, moving into purchasing, into the purchasing module. So purchasing in Intacct can follow a really robust workflow. Staff can put in purchase requests directly, you can have purchase approvals, you can have supplier management, and so on. So let me show you what I mean there. Okay, so into purchasing, and I'm going to go into a purchase requisition. Here we go. So these are my purchase requisitions. I'm going to have a look. Hamza's bought a new laptop or requested to buy a new laptop. So let's just view this. Okay, so we can see here, we've got the Singleton brothers at work again. They've been very busy for us. So we've put in a request for a laptop for £1,000. And if we look at the history, we can see this was put in by Hamza, and then we can see the approval history here, and you can see that Emma approved it, You can see the date on which it was approved and who went through. Okay, I think Hamza's been moonlighting as Emma there from that, but it gives you the idea. Okay, so now if we go back, I close that, back into the history, you can see here the workflow that's been in play here. So we started off with the purchase requisition, which is here, and that's the transaction I'm in currently. It's been converted into a purchase order, and then following on from that, it's also been converted into a vendor invoice. So let's have a look at the purchase order. Okay, and if we scroll down, you can see it's brought through exactly the same information. It's the same item, the same department, and the same amount. Done on that. And then onto the vendor invoice, or supplier invoice in UK terminology. There we go. Again, we've got the item, we've got the different dimensions tagged, and then we've also got our pricing in here. Okay, so in terms of approvals, you can set it up to, depending on the workflow you've got in place, you can set it up to email you when there is a transaction ready for approval, and then that would take you into this part here, approve transactions. There's different workflows and approval flows that you can put into place, and that's something that we'd go through during a blueprinting phase where we look into whether you want to do it via, say, the transactions department, whether you want it to be value-based, and so on. There's lots of different ways of setting up. And in fact, if I take you into my transaction definitions here and display my workflows, you'll see I've got lots of different examples running here. So my top one, the purchase requisition, you can see it goes into either a purchase order with spend management or a purchase order for inventory. And then from that purchase order with spend management, we go to a vendor invoice. From my inventory, I've added in a PO receiver and then an invoice, and then we've got returns and debit memos here as well. Same with just a standard purchase order, we can go straight to a vendor invoice, and then we've set for returns as well. So lots of different customization that you can have there for your different teams and your different use cases. Okay, and just going back to the approvals, you can set them to come onto your dashboard. So I'm kind of bringing us back to where we were at the start. So if you did log in to your dashboard, you'd be able to see whether there are any approvals waiting for you to go into and review. Okay, so we're going to go back into the top level now and have a look at how I achieved the consolidations to run that report where I could see my different entities across the world. So if we go into consolidation here, and my setup, I've got some books. Okay, so I've got multiple books. Like I said, I've got global locations into US dollars. I've also got my global locations into GBP. So depending on your reporting requirements, you can set up different books. I've also created one for North America and one for non-US based locations. So if we just have a look at, let's go for global GBP here. We go. So you can see the entities to consolidate. I've chosen basically all of my entities here. I've got an elimination adjustment account, and then I've also get an elimination entity. I can choose which of my dimensions to consolidate, what type of journal I'm going to use for any postings, and then it's going to do some eliminations for me. So there's inter-entity eliminations that Intacct will do automatically for you when you do run your consolidation. So that runs it for you. You would set up the mapping for this so it knows which entity is due from if you do any intercompany transactions. Okay, you can also add in some accounts to override as well. Okay, so moving on to intercompany postings, I'll just show you an intercode journal so that you can see how the system handles the double entry. So I'm going to go into cash management and funds transfers. Okay, so I've done a transfer here and I will view it. Okay, so I've transferred from one of my bank accounts to another. Yep, for 100k there. And then if we look at the posting details, you can see there's the 100k that's moved here. So we've done a credit for our Bank of England checking accounts, and we've done a debit for our Bank of Canada checking accounts. And then this is what Intacct has done for me automatically because of the way I've got it set up. So these are obviously UK and Canada, different companies, different entities. So Intacct has noticed that and has done the change for me. So I've now got due from entity 400 and due to entity 500, those intercompany postings done. So back to consolidations. Running a consolidation is really, really simple. If I go into run consolidation, okay, I can just pick a month and click on consolidate. It will send me an email to tell me when it's ready. I'll go ahead and you can see there's a key at the bottom. So the ones in green, they've been successful. Anything in red has failed. So you know that you would need to go and do some investigation there. And then currently in blue, this one is in process. Okay, so you'll get an email once that has completed. Okay, so back onto cash management. I'll leave that running. We can revisit that in a second. So Intacct also makes cash management seamless. So I'm just going to go into one of my bank accounts and show you the bank feed. So we've got a live bank feed. We go. So this is my reconciliation page. I've got my Intacct transactions here, which I need to do a little bit of reconciliation here. And then on the bank tab, I've got my bank feed. So all the transactions that have gone through my bank are coming across into Intacct here. Okay, so it's really simple. If I go into Intacct, have a little look. I know I've got something to match in here because again, I prepared something earlier. So if we go to the bank, my heart and vascular clinic here, if I click to match, and then let's try and find that here. So if I type in heart, here we go. I've got the matching 18,750. So I can tick that. I've matched off my bank amount with my Intacct transaction. And you can see at the bottom here, remaining to match is 0. So I could save that and run into the next transaction. Up here, you can see I've got 43 unmatched transactions, how much I need to match and so on, and then my amount to reconcile. As you go through, you can save as you go. You can only reconcile, obviously, once the amount to reconcile is down at 0. So that is a really high-level walkthrough of Intacct across dashboards, transactions, reporting, and a bit of automation. I'm happy, Rory, to open the floor up for questions. I'll
Yeah,
stop sharing my screen a second so that.
Thank you, Emma. So, I mean, thank you everybody for joining us today. As I say, we're going to be in touch regardless. So you'll get a copy of the recording, and then we'll also be in touch just to sort of get your thoughts on Intacct and if this is sort of a conversation that you want to take further. If it is, you're very likely going to speak with either myself or my colleague Linda. And the idea is, as I say, it's just sort of a 30-minute call just to sort of understand where you are in your finance transformation project. It could be something that's very early doors at the moment or something that you are going to be doing over the next couple of months, but we're here to help and sort of run through how Intacct could help you. But I guess we'll leave it there. Thank you everybody for attending this afternoon. I really hope that was worthwhile for you. And as I say, we'll be in touch, and I hope that we speak to you guys very, very soon. Bye-bye, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.